following is a paid program. This is the Straight to Ale Swim, Bike, Run Alabama show, promoting swimming, biking, and running events all over North Alabama. Here are your hosts, Parker Edmiston and Doug Tinkham.
Welcome everybody to another edition of Swim, Bike, Run Alabama here on WEKI and WTKI, Huntsville and Decatur.
Brought to you by Straight to Ale.
And what is Straight to Ale?
It's the best beer in the world.
In the world, known to mankind.
We enjoyed a little bit of that in New Orleans this year. This week.
Yeah.
Last 2 days ago.
But we drank responsibly, as everybody should.
During the swim.
Drank a little bit of water during the swim. And,
I cannot condone this, you guys.
oh, Lake Pontchartrain, that was a little sketchy on the...
That's why you wanted high alcohol content.
I heard.
Just to kill the stuff. Yeah, we had a lot of rain down there, so a lot of runoff into the water.
Maybe we can get Allie to talk about swimming in a bacterial cesspool.
I don't recommend it.
No, and inside the swimming actually seemed fairly clean.
Yeah, it did.
So that tells you can't see the microscopic amoebas that are now trying to eat through my intestinal system.
There you go.
Yeah.
But not your brain.
But not my brain. No, that brain-eating amoeba has been there for years. It's got left little to...
All right, let's get on track.
All right,
Allie is
Allie.
here from ReadySetSweat.net, and what are we going to talk about today?
Today we're going to talk about something fun, music while swimming.
Ooh.
Does anybody listen to music while swimming?
She's got Betty Davis eyes comes to mind for some reason right now.
Is that your pace song?
Well, you've got this raspiness going.
I
so.
do, yeah.
She's My Pretty Little Pony.
It must be that amoeba from...
She's a little horse. You're supposed to...
That's what it is.
Never mind.
So yeah, a lot of folks will ask me sometimes whether or not I recommend that they listen to music while they're swimming, because a lot of people like to bike and run listening to music, and so that's something that people sometimes like to do in swimming. So I just thought that'd be fun to talk about today.
I would see a big difference in swimming with music in the pool versus open water.
Definitely. I think in open water you need to be as aware as possible, kind of like riding your bike on a spinning bike versus being out on the road. You want to be able to hear anything that's happening, whether there's a seaplane about to land on your head or there's a shark about to attack you, all those kinds of things. You need to be able to be aware.
I don't want to know when
Maybe
the
you don't wanna
seaplane's
know.
coming or the shark.
That did happen to me one time, true story.
Shark or seaplane?
Seaplane, Lake Washington. I was swimming along and close to a dock, and thankfully the seaplane was docking at the dock, but I was on the opposite side of the dock, and so I just clung to the piling and held as tight as I could.
Wow.
But I digress.
Did you hear it or not hear it?
I did. I was not listening to music, so I heard it. Mm-hmm.
So do you advocate?
Could they hear you?
Yeah, could they hear me screaming?
So
Yes.
do you advocate listening to music while you're swimming?
I was going to say, I think it's a great tool. There's been a lot of advances lately in the technology that allows you to be able to listen to music while swimming. They've got several different kinds of headsets that you can get, from the kind of earplugs that go into your ears like you use when you're running, that are they're just waterproof and they have more of an uncomfortable but tighter fitting ear setup, to the kind that actually, believe it or not, transmit through the bones of your face.
I've had every kind. I've had those to begin with, where they sit on your, whatever your cheekbone is, and you actually hear it through that.
And it works, huh?
It does. It works.
So cool. I have not owned a pair of those yet.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's actually the first pair I owned probably 5-6 years ago.
Nice.
And since then, I've progressed to the ones to stick in my ear.
Yeah.
It just seems to me, and Doug and I aren't comfortable swimming. It gets boring, doesn't it, Doug? In the water, and in a pool, and maybe not open water.
Yeah, I tried to throw you that toaster that one time, but...
Well, thank goodness for that 3-prong. It was only a little bit of a shot.
Well, nice thing about music is you can put on tunes that have a certain beats per minute, and you can keep your stroke rate at a certain speed if you're trying to keep up a certain cadence, so that can be helpful.
How do you swim when you don't have the music, though? If you use it, is it a crutch?
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe you have to swim to the beat of your own drummer.
I've been doing that for 47 years.
All you gotta do is these voices in your head, just follow them.
That's right. Listen
give
to
them
I'm
a
trying to
little
get rid of the
instrument.
voices in my head.
So have you had any trouble with it falling out of your ears? Because I've had some that I've tried that I've just never been able to find a pair that fits well.
It's depending on the day, I guess, maybe. I guess if there's a little bit of moisture inside your ear, maybe it's harder to keep it in. But there's some with the plugs that have maybe ridges on it that's easier to keep in your ear.
Cool.
And even if you have just, I think, one ear plug in, you can still hear it. So if one pops out, you still continue to swim.
So one thing I wanted to mention is I have tried several different varieties, so I'd be happy if anybody listening to this podcast has the best set of swimming headphones. I would love to know about it because I've tried a few. That's why I was curious about your experience. I actually had a pair that had the type of headphones that kind of the little rubber end comes off at the end,
Yes.
and I got it stuck in my
Uh-oh.
ear. And I had to, I know this is
Get a
not
hanger.
advised, but I had to use a pair of tweezers. I would advise going to your doctor, but dumbly I decided to try to get it. And I got it out, but it scared me to death. So I was just curious what experiences other people have.
I did the same with the wax that I put for earplugs in my ear.
Oh, yeah?
About 3 weeks ago, and freaked
that
me out
stuck.
a little bit.
It's a scary feeling.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
but boy, that music makes it worth it, doesn't it? Just having being able to listen to tunes.
You know, and I do on again, off again use the music, but you know, if you're going in to swim any distance, you know, if you're going in to swim 3,000-4,000 yards, it just seems to me, looking at that black line, you need something to encourage you to swim.
Yeah, exactly. It's helpful. Anything that gets you in the pool, makes you more consistent, is going to be your best friend.
I don't even know what to say. There's nothing that makes swimming more fun.
Have you,
It's
Doug,
just
have
too
you
fun
used
by
it?
itself.
I haven't tried it yet. I need
Okay.
to.
I've got a couple of
Report
sets, and
back.
maybe we can get you a pair and you test it out.
Yeah,
We'll try.
report back.
Allie Meeks, ReadySetSweat.net. Grab her on the website, fantastic swim coach, and we thank you for being here, Allie.
Thanks for having me.
Bye now.
You're clear, and on the phone is a calling guest.
Welcome everybody to another edition of Swim Bike Run Alabama. I'm here with my good friend and companion, Mr. Doug Tinkham,
Hey, what's happening, folks?
triathlete
Swim
extraordinaire.
Bike Run.
How about it?
you?
Doug Tinkham, recently off a New Orleans 70.3.
A slow New Orleans 70.3.
Well, it's the Big Easy. You're supposed to take it easy in New Orleans, Doug.
You were getting a
You-
massage and drinking a beer, I think, by the time I got there.
Well, you start the weekend like you want to finish the weekend. We've got a great guest with us today to start the show, and that's Phil Walton. Phil's from Unfiltered Kayaking. And kayaking is going to be a huge thing to do this spring. Thanks for being here, Phil.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Phil, we met you out at the state park a few weeks ago, and was real interested in what you do out there with the kayaking. Tell us about how you got into kayaking.
Well, I grew up on the Mississippi River, and I've canoed and kayaked my whole life, but probably about 6 years ago, I started taking it a little bit more seriously. So I entered personally some distance races of 31 and 43 miles, and really just grew to love the distance part of kayaking, not to mention the fitness part of it.
Okay, and so you started out as a recreational kayaker,
Yes.
and then now you've developed a company.
Yes.
And what is unfiltered kayaking?
Unfiltered kayaking is my vision of encouraging everyone to get out on the water, to explore everything that we have to on the lakes, whether it be Lake Gunnersville or Wheeler Lake, and it's also instructional in that I provide some professional instruction for beginning paddlers or even paddlers that are looking to improve their skills.
Is there a better place in the nation to get into kayaking than the Southeast and in Northeast Alabama in particular?
Absolutely not. We have got 69,000 acres of water to play on, and that's just on Lake Gunnersville. And there is so much to explore. I've spent the last 6 years logging at least almost 1,800 miles a year on that lake, and I have barely scratched the surface on it.
How many days a week do you get to go out and kayak?
Well, during the season, I am literally out on the water every day.
Wow.
So it's a lot of fun. My personal paddles, I sneak them in when I can, but to go out for a 10 to 20 miler is a beautiful thing.
You know, and he doesn't have to wait until the springtime or summer weather. Phil was telling me a story about the last snow we had, or one of the big snows this winter. What happened, Phil?
Well, I have kind of wanted, being from Wisconsin, I paddled in the snow and haven't had a chance to since I moved down here about 15 years ago. And we had that nice snowstorm, and I was threatening to go out when we finally had a good snow, and we did, and I was out on Lake Gunnersville with about 3 inches of snow on top of my kayak, out there with my camera taking pictures, and it was just beautiful.
Did you kayak down any hills?
No, I didn't get a chance to, but I know a lot of friends that while they're waiting for warmer water, they'll take those kayaks and turn them into some pretty cool sleds.
I've seen that on YouTube.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's a riot.
When will you see the recreational kayakers get into the water? Are they coming out now?
They're starting to come out now. Of course, the amount of rain that we've had is kind of hampering things a little bit. But the temperature of the lake is above 60 degrees now, so you're going to start seeing a lot more kayakers out this coming month.
Okay, Phil, we appreciate it. Phil is from unfilteredkayaking.com. You can go on the internet and find them there. And Phil, we look forward to seeing you out on the water this spring.
All right, thank you.
We'll be back after these messages.
You're clear.
Welcome back, everybody, to another segment here on Swim Bike Run Alabama. We're brought to you by WTKI in Huntsville, WEKI in Decatur, and our sponsor, Straight to L, is still right here in beautiful, nearly downtown Huntsville, Alabama. We've got with us on this segment Brooke Nelson. Brooke Nelson is the ride director for the Cheehaw Challenge.
A beast of a ride.
It is a great ride.
It is a fun time.
Brooke, thanks for being with us.
We appreciate it. I'm very, very happy to be here.
I know that Brooke has been race directing running events for years and years down in Anniston. She's part of the Anniston Runners Club and Tri Club. But I believe this is your first year, Brooke, as being the ride director for Cheehaw. Is that right?
That is correct. I've worked on the committee for a number of years ever since I moved back to Alabama 16 years ago. And it's sort of been in our blood. My brother was on the original committee that started the Cheehaw Challenge. In fact, his good friend, Mike Vickers, a big riding partner, came to him one day and said, I've got this idea that we could do a ride from Piedmont, Alabama, south on Highway 9, hit 281, go up to the top of Alabama at Mount Cheehaw State Park, and go over it to Adams Gap and come back. It's over 100 miles. And my brother said, who in the world would want to do that?
Well, I'm glad to say.
But it seemed like a lot of people were interested in that, and that was 23 years ago, and we're still going strong. We're one of the largest bike rides in Alabama, and we intend to keep growing and making it better year after year.
It was my first century ride some years ago, and
oh, wow.
I think it's one of the most scenic rides that I've ever been on nationwide.
It was cold the year we did it.
I think that drop off of coming out of Cheehaw State Park going down to Adams Gap, where you just see the mountains laid out in all different shades of lush green, is just a gorgeous, gorgeous view. People, a lot of riders, we have riders, of course, from all over the country, but some of them that come from flatland areas are like, who put all these mountains here?
Well,
so it's exciting for us to get to show off and showcase what we have here in Alabama to offer.
Yeah, you don't think of Alabama as being hilly, but Cheehaw is the highest point, I believe, in Alabama.
It is the highest point, and for years we have said that we take our riders to the top of Alabama, and that wasn't actually the truth. We told a little white lie. We actually took them right by the top, by the entrance of Cheehaw State Park, because the tip top, the legal top, the certified top is at Bunker Tower.
Well, some of us leave the registered race course and go find that top point.
Doug and I last year
and coffee.
With Chris Harper, we went up to the top of Cheehaw, and where you have an aid station every year, and then we took a hard ride, and we went up to the very tip top.
Well, good for y'all, because you previewed our course for this year. We added that part. We didn't want to be liars anymore.
Excellent.
We decided we wanted to tell the truth. So we're taking them into Cheehaw State Park, up to the top. We moved our aid station off the road, which was a little bit dangerous, and we put it there right past Bunker Tower. So we wanted to keep ourselves honest on that, and that's the only major change to the challenge, the Century Ride part of the course this year, is it actually goes into the the park. The other big change to the ride this year had to do with the challenge. As if it wasn't challenging enough, we decided to add a little more climbing elevation, and we enlisted some of our local riders that love climbing because we wanted to rival some of these other rides that have more climbing, and we added what's called an ultra onto our Century ride. It's a total of 200K or 124 miles, and it encompasses all the major climbs in our area for a total of 11,733 feet of climbing. So we're doing a great job of attracting the attention of a lot of climbers.
Well, I'd say that'd have to do it again. Where does the Cheehaw Challenge begin this year, Brooke?
Well, last year, for the first time, we had moved from Piedmont, where we had been for 21 years, and they had been great hosts, but we found that we were somewhat stagnant in our growth, and we were hoping to find a host that would allow us some room to grow. And so we got partnered up with Jacksonville, the city of Jacksonville, and Jacksonville State University, and our start and finish venue is right there at Jacksonville State University at Pete Matthews Coliseum, and it's wonderful. They have been fantastic to us and been very, very excited to host our ride there. And so it goes from Jacksonville State University straight down Highway 21, cuts over White's Gap, if you're familiar with the area. There's a little bit of a climb there, and then picks up on Highway 9 and follows pretty much the same course, with that exception of going into the park. And we have distances of 24 miles, 44 miles, 62 miles, 84 miles, 100 miles, and now 124 miles.
So no matter what where you're at in your training, your riding, this springtime, you can find a distance that's going to suit you, and that's great. Brooke, how does someone register for the Cheehaw Challenge?
The easiest way to go about it, USA Cycling is doing our registration. All you have to do is go on CheehawChallenge.com, and it's a registration link right there. You click it, you fill out the information. It's very easy to do. We'll be taking online registrations through Thursday, May the 14th, and then after that point, you can register a walk-up registration on Saturday the 16th and Sunday the 17th. The 16th in Anniston, we're offering two different places to register. Wiggs Wheels on Noble Street in Anniston is taking registrations from 10 to 3. And then we're having a big pre-ride party complete with catered food from Mellow Mushroom, and the Gypsy Begonia Band is playing at Harley Davidson in Oxford, and you can register there. After that, though, the next time to register would be early on Sunday morning. We have a pre-ride breakfast, and of course, being a Grand Fondo, it's all about food and drink and music, and so we'll have a great big post-ride party after the riders cross the finish line. Okay, the website for Cheehaw, what's the web address? CheehawChallenge.com. Man, make it easy. Make it easy. Make it easy, baby. Except for the ride. Awesome. Last year, Brooke, we've done a great job of attracting climbers, by adding even more of a challenge to the challenge. But we also created a family ride called the Chief Ladiga Cruise. It's going to start 30 minutes after the challenge. The challenge and the ultra start at 7:30 on Sunday, May 17th. The cruise starts at 8, and it goes just straight up the Chief Ladiga Trail to the Eubanks Welcome Center and back. But there's several turnaround points where rest stops are for it as well. We've got 7 rest stops on the challenge and the ultra, and 3 on the cruise. So it's geared for families of riders, kids, new riders. Welcome back, everybody, to another segment here on Swim, Bike, Run, Alabama. We're brought to you by Straight to Ale Brewery, the best beer known to man, right here in Huntsville, Alabama. And I'm Parker Edmiston here with my co-host and friend, Doug Tinkham. We have a special guest in studio, and that is Mr. Andrew Walker from PhysioWorks. PhysioWorks, How to Run Better. Andrew Walker, thanks for being here.
Hey, it's good to be here again, Parker.
Andrew always has a lot of information about how we run better and how to make your body be able to keep up the training that you need to run better. Andrew, tell us, what you see as the runner's routine, or what we should do to get into a routine to become better runners.
Sure. I mean, I think one of the things I see that really makes me cringe a little bit at times is watching people's warm-up and warm-down routines. There's a lot of, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for, superstitions about how people do things. And sometimes those superstitions and those practices lead us to risk injury.
Such as?
I guess one of the big things is long static stretching before an event. So some of the research shows that stretching more than 30 seconds actually reduces the muscle's performance, the power that it can deliver.
Really?
So if you actually see someone doing a static stretch before the race, and particularly if it's a long one, they really actually might be doing themselves a disservice.
So line up next to them. That'll be at least one person you can take out.
There you go, that's right. But yes, I mean, when it comes to a warm-up, one of the things we're really looking for is something that's dynamic, and that's what the research shows. You don't want it to be static anyway, so static stretching really shouldn't be something before the race. It should be something that is after the race. But before, you want a nice dynamic warm-up.
Like jumping jacks?
Not dissimilar, actually. And I've actually written a blog post recently on stretching. And in that blog post, there's a sequence of videos there that gives you an idea of a type of dynamic warm-up that you could do.
How would someone get to your blog post?
They can go to physioworkshsv.com, and it's down at the bottom of the page. There's the latest 3 postings.
And Facebook also, right?
Yeah.
I think that's where I saw it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so folks, they want a routine, because if you go to a race, you want to do those things. I mean, that's why you have a routine, to feel comfortable on getting ready and prepared for your race. You just want to instruct them on how to best prepare for the race.
I think that's true. Like I say, there's superstitions and there's things they've been told by 20 years ago by a high school athletics coach that really doesn't actually fit the science that we know now. So, I mean, another example goes to the what we do afterwards. We need to warm down, and that's important, and that's when static stretching comes in. But again, that 30-second rule was very important, because if you're doing these long static stretches, your performance is going to be reduced. Now, you might think, okay, we've done the performance, we're warming down, but you've still got to walk from where you've stretched to the car.
From transition to the car.
Exactly.
We battled that.
There's a chance that if you do long static stretches, that you actually increase your risk of injury getting into the car after the race.
Now, I noticed that Doug, a lot of times, he weeps after a run. So is weeping a part of
I also weep during a race.
Well, I don't know, maybe maybe
Never,
a psychiatrist.
never before.
Yeah, I tend to cry before, just anticipation. So you've got the stretching before and after. You say, well, not so much. Would you suggest running before a running event? And then how do you decide how much to run before what type of an event?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the key thing from my point of view is whatever event you're doing, be it training or be it a race, be it a 10K, be it a marathon or an Ironman, I think you need to do a reasonable amount of warm-up. And I usually recommend about 15 minutes of warm-up. So those dynamic sort of stretching exercises, but stuff that gets the muscles warm. So light jogging is definitely a good thing to do. I mean, I wouldn't run at your race pace prior to the race, though.
Okay. And now you say you can go to your website, physioworkshsv.com, and you got a blog. And how often do you update your information on your website?
I try and write a blog article every week to 2, or even sometimes twice a week. It just depends what sort of series I'm in and how busy I am.
And then what will the blogs encompass? What type of training, or will it be just cycling, or will it be just running, or will it be just across the board?
It will be across the board. So, I mean, like recent articles that we've done have been like on piriformis syndrome. I saw someone posting about that on We Run Huntsville, and I thought, this is a good time to address the science behind it. Stretching was one. We're about to launch a series on ACL injuries and injury prevention with them.
I noticed, Doug, we went and raced New Orleans 70.3 over the weekend, and I was really hurting, and so I had this little orange foam roller that I use to try to stretch out a little bit. Doug says he uses a PVC pipe.
Yeah, piece of PVC
and
pipe,
it's so
4-inch.
It's amazing the pain that can be caused by that. But I guess if you do it enough, that it helps you. And what do you recommend as far as that?
Unfortunately, there's not really a huge amount of science behind like foam rolling and things like that, or PVC rolling, if you want to use that.
It's a poor man's foam roller.
All right. But so there's not really much science behind it. I think the key thing is if it's comfortable and you feel that it's helping you, it's not a bad thing. There's no research that I know of that shows that it actually is detrimental to your performance or increases the risk of injury.
Well, could it possibly be helpful?
I think it could be helpful, yeah. I mean, I've used it before with people who say IT band tendonitis.
Okay.
And sometimes, I mean, the key thing is anything that helps you get better is good. But why have you got there in the first place? So that's where the video running analysis comes in from my point of view. If we can do things to stop those tissues being overloaded, we actually have a chance of hopefully maybe you not needing that foam roller.
Well, if you've got an issue and you're running, and every week you're battling an injury, then you're doing something wrong. And I guess that's the thought behind your website and your business is you're trying to get people to where they can run injury-free.
Exactly right. I mean, I've been a PT for nearly 12 years, and I've treated tons of patients who've had injuries that are potentially preventable. And, you don't need to be running week in, week out with soreness and pain afterwards, or having to run with tape all over your legs in multiple colours. There are things you can do to really help yourself.
See, I would think it would be normal to be in agony after a marathon, but I mean, you're saying that's not necessarily the case.
I think there's soreness, a normal muscle soreness. And there was actually a study that said I think it was a pain level of 5 out of 10 that lasts for a day is acceptable. But if it's real agony, sharp shooting pains, no, that's not acceptable, and that's something you really want to get looked at.
Well, you see, the runners that seem like they've got a good program is, by the time I come across the finish line, they've already met me coming the other way, finishing. Now they're doing a cool down. Mm-hmm. And it'd be nice to be able to run injury-free. Doug and I, over the last few days, have watched people just loping up down the sidewalk, and it looks so fun to run, when you don't have an injury.
Sure.
I don't have an injury, but it's not fun.
Well, I mean, I saw you run, Doug. And
did I look like I was having fun?
You were having no fun.
Exactly.
So, how do you recommend folks, or you recommend them come in and see you, but what would you do as far as an analysis on a first-time visit?
Well, we've got a couple of options. Like if you've just injured yourself on a weekend, we have what we call 15-minute injury screens. They're a free service that people can come and use, and then we can work out if you need a referral or not from a doctor, nurse practitioner, or a PA or whoever. The other option, if you do have a referral already, is we can actually do a full evaluation. Physical therapy evaluation is 60 minutes, and a full running evaluation is a 90-minute session.
Okay. And price range on the low end versus the high end?
Mm-hmm. Well, we've got the free injury screens at 15 minutes. The hourly rate is $135, and then the running analysis with the video capture is $225 for 90.
Well, Andrew, we appreciate you coming in. We've heard some very good things about you from athletes who have used you. And so if you're looking to run injury-free, go and see Andrew. Look at his website, look at his Facebook page, PhysioWorksHSV.com. Andrew, thanks for being here again this week.
I appreciate it. It's a good time.
Thanks, Andrew.
You're clear.
They are not, yeah. They add quite a bit.
Welcome back, everybody, to another segment here on Swim Bike Run Alabama, brought to you by Straight to Ale Brewery, the finest beer and on demand right here in Huntsville, Alabama. If you're looking for a place to go out and have a great microbrew, go check out the good folks at Straight to Ale Brewery here in Huntsville. I'm here with my co-host, Doug Tinkham, and in studio is Chris Levin from Bicycle Cove. Chris, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Chris has been with us now for a number of weeks, a great sponsor of the program, and Chris is in studio, and we're going to talk about disc brakes.
Yes, so disc brakes have been around for a while on mountain bikes, and they slowly made their way to cyclocross bikes, and now they are going to be becoming very popular and offer a lot of choices in the road market.
I have seen disc brakes on mountain bikes and some cyclocross bikes. haven't seen them on road bikes, and I'm unfamiliar with them. So explain what they are.
So basically, a disc brake is a similar concept to what you'd see on a motorcycle. Same thing as you'd see on a mountain bike. What they offer for a road bike is same benefits: better stopping power, better control of braking at the lever, better all-weather consistency, whether it's wet or dry. And so for a while we didn't think it was necessary on the road, and now folks are thinking it is.
All right, so you've got the two bikes, one with and one without the disc brakes. If you're coming to a stop, do you mean you get to stop quicker?
Yes, so you'll be able to carry more speed up to a turn, for example. So you can certainly brake a lot later. One of the benefits if you live in a hilly or a mountainous area is descending. You're not going to have to worry about brake fade like you would have to worry about with a regular rim brake.
They work better in the wet conditions too, don't they?
That's very true. So braking consistency, wet or dry, rainy or sunny, is the exact same. And so, if you take a professional or someone that doesn't stop their riding regardless of weather, their bike's just going to function better.
Now, what will be the learning curve for the typical rider, and what they have to do for
You mean how many
brake
times
maintenance?
you go over the handlebars?
Exactly, yeah.
It's actually pretty quick because you get a lot of folks that have the same experience when they come over from a rim brake mountain bike to a disc brake mountain bike. And I think a lot of folks pick it up pretty quickly. If anything, it tends to feel better. It tends to feel like a more positive braking experience. And so it's pretty quick.
And so I guess if you're braking easier, then you're not going to have to clamp down on the brake, and so it may be better for
that fatigue
for
coming down a hill is rough.
Absolutely.
These are hydraulic though, aren't they? Or
They're
manual
both.
hydraulic?
Yeah, they're both. I mean, the hydraulic systems aren't nearly as prevalent, but there are mechanical or cable pull systems, and there are also hydraulic systems.
And you said that the UCI is going to be the last hurdle for this to become, I guess, standard in the industry.
Yeah, so the UCI, which has always been a challenge when it comes to technical advancements, finally came out. It's been about a week, and they said that between the months of August and September, professional cycling teams can pick 2 races to use disc brakes in. And what that means for the industry is that hurdle is gone, and they can, what was once a risk is no longer a risk. They can start producing more and more disc brake bikes.
Will there be any difference in the bike setup with disc brakes versus regular brakes?
The only main difference is there typically has to be some more reinforcement at the wheel. So different wheel systems, the frames do have to be reinforced differently, and that basically comes from the way the wheel is connected. They found that using a quick release skewer, which is pretty common and standard on most bikes, is not going to function as well. So one of the biggest issues is, well, what works best? What, if any, can we create a standard? And so that's still kind of up for debate, but some type of through axle where you're threading an axle through has become the norm. It's just trying to find which one works the best and which one's going to be the most consistent.
So this may not be a retrofit thing that can be done to your existing frame.
No, if you do not have a disc brake bike now, you cannot turn it into one.
Okay. And so it'd be like any other advancement. My beta VHS tapes or whatever, I'll gradually have to go to. What is it, Doug?
No, I'm not. That's not for radio play.
Okay. So there'll be if I have the regular brakes now and I don't get disc brakes on a new bike, it'd be a year or two, whenever you transfer to another bike.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's going to be your next bike upgrade or whenever you're ready to treat yourself. That's if you want to think about this, it's definitely going to be new.
Do you have any in at Bicycle Cove people can look at?
We do. Trek is
great one.
Trek.
I'd like to see it.
I know, they're really, really neat. Trek does have a few options now. I expect it to expand quite a bit, but we do have a couple of disc brake models in the store.
Well, you know where you can see them.
Bicycle Cove.
Bicycle Cove. We'll
Over
be
the
there
mountain.
next Thursday for packet pickup for Lake Gunnersville Triathlon Festival. Chris and the crew there is hosting the event, and we appreciate that, all the support that they give us. If you're looking for new, innovative technology in cycling, you have to go to Bicycle Cove. Thanks. Appreciate you being here, Chris.
Thank you, guys. Enjoyed it.
You're clear.
I said my career.
welcome back, everybody, to another segment here on Swim Bike Run Alabama. We're here sponsored this segment by We Run Huntsville. If you're looking for a place to run in Huntsville, check out We Run Huntsville on their website and their Facebook page. Special guest in studio by phone, Chris Borden. You rarely have a chance to talk to a world-class athlete. Chris Borden is that world-class athlete, a two-time Kona qualifier, a 70.3 world champ qualifier, ITU amateur world champ qualifier, USAT All-American, first amateur at IM Chattanooga, and sponsored by Team Diamond and Team Zoot. Hey, thanks for being here, Chris, and we'll see you next week. I mean, you've got so many things, Chris, so many accolades. It's great to have you on the show today.
Well, I appreciate the invite, Parker. I think it's an awesome opportunity to get to be part of what you guys are doing, honestly.
Well, and talking about a special opportunity, Doug and I got to see you race down at Ironman New Orleans over the weekend.
Tell us all about it, Chris.
Oh, yeah, man, that is definitely a great race, isn't it?
It was a little cool for me.
Really excited to get to be part of all that humidity and heat and Pontchartrain, right?
Well, the Pontchartrain, we got to swim. There was some concern about the water quality, but they let us swim. We had a great swim. Tell me, Chris, as what could be very easily a pro athlete, how do you approach a 70.3 event versus another race?
Oh, I really don't take very much of a different approach if you're talking about like a 70.3 versus an Ironman. I train the house down regardless. I guess there's a little variation in the intensity of some of the workouts, but I mean my long rides are still right at 4.5 hours. Still running 50, 60 miles a week, I guess. So not a whole lot.
Well, what was the decision for you to go to New Orleans and race that event?
Man, I had a buddy that was going down there that has been a pro for the last couple years, and he James Haycraft is his name. He's from North Carolina, really good guy, and I've been wanting to race him, and he didn't requalify for his pro card or didn't take his pro card, and I just wanted to go down there and have the opportunity to race against him. He ended up not showing up, so...
well, you got to race against me, and we're buddies, so
yeah,
that worked out.
Doug. That was a hoot. That's what I said. Every time I saw Doug, he was smiling.
Yeah, I know, and I know it was neck to neck between you and Doug all the way till the gun sounded. Till the start of the swim.
Right till the gun start. Hey, what about that? What about that dry start?
What that?
Not getting a warm up or not?
Yeah, that was a little brisk there, jumping in the bacteria pool.
Man, I was very sad. I don't know about you guys, but when I start swimming, my shoulders always start screaming right away. So I like to get that out of the way before the race. But what was such a big surprise to me was I was so worried about my shoulders that I completely forgot about my goggles and making sure I had them real nice and secure. So when I jumped in, when I jumped in, I was fine, but shortly thereafter, I leaked into a nice puddle of Pontchartrain in my goggles.
Well, I'm sure the blindness will be on you.
Pending.
Pending. I mean, one thing I guess on a dry start like that is, you're obviously a pro quality athlete, and you've shown that for years in all that you've done. The first amateur at Ironman Chattanooga. It seems that you could easily move up into the pro field. Should there be an elite class of athlete that's not pro just because of your work that you have to do? Shouldn't you all be able to get into the water, because you're going to be faster than 95, 98% of all the other athletes?
Oh man, Parker, that's a really interesting point. And it's talked about a lot. There seems to be a big separation between where you've got amateurs that are training as much as pros maybe, but they're not quite to that level. And then, there's another step where you've got, the back of the pack pros. And there's a little overlap. We're not quite there to be pro. I mean, sure, I could go get the break speed off of.
Chris, we're gonna hate to cut you off, but we're gonna make this a two-parter. We want you to come back next week and hold that thought. And we'll be back right after these messages.
Clear.
Hey, Chris, you there?
Hey, Chris.
No, we're dead. Chris, you there?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, when the music starts, sorry, we should have told you, it's right at about 45 seconds, and then Brian in the booth is going to hold up some cards you can't see, so we will know and you won't.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear any music anyway.
Oh, you couldn't hear the
All
music?
right.
Are talking. The
Yeah.
other one is attenuated, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if there is some noise, there's...
Well, we'll have a safe word.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
okay. It doesn't matter.
We call that
To me, if it matters to you.
No, just
Oh.
we don't want to be rude and cut you
Yeah.
off, but it'll get to that point. We're going to have to get the hook.